Hello and welcome back to the World Championship in Through the Ages. Today we are going to take a look at the last one of the three-player games, and as you can see in the standings, my position is still quite good. I have 19 points, however, with Malakesh being able to win the first two three-player games, he is definitely still in striking distance, and if he should manage to win this game, he could even catch up to me in points, going then in a very equal position into the two-player games. On the other hand, if I should be able to win this game, then I can really keep him on distance and go into the two-player games with a very comfortable position. I have not played my last turn yet in this game, so we can take a look at the outcome together. Unfortunately, at the end of this game, there was a bit of drama happening. Yeah, but we will come to this, and we will now start at the beginning with taking a look at the game. Alright, in this game I'm playing in the third position, and first of all, as always, we can take a look at the leaders and wonders. And there's some theater synergy with Marlene Dietrich and Fleming. There is, however, no Hollywood, only the internet. There is the internet together with Pierre, so that can be a strong combination. We have Gandhi for the military, no Churchill, no Manhattan Project. There is the Red Cross. Not a lot of lab leaders. Steve Jobs and Einstein are there, but no spaceflight, no Manhattan Project. In H2, we have the railroad. We have no Suez Canal, but there is James Cook. We have Bach and Gaudi for some theater synergy, and there's Maria Theresa, but no ocean liner service. We have all of the three military action leaders in H2. We also have both military action leaders in H1, and also all of them are in the game, also Caesar. Then we have Nostradamus and Barbarossa, as well as Genghis Khan to help with the strength. So a lot of leaders that help in that area. We have Michelangelo with some interesting wonders like Machu Picchu, St. Peter's Basilica, maybe Universitas can also work out quite well. And then Saladin just as a very solid leader. Malakesh is playing in first position. He just grabs the engineering genius. At his next turn, there should still be one out of those three very strong leaders available. So it's maybe fine to just take that card now and then go for one of those leaders at the next turn. Bright Future probably takes the strongest wonder that is in a row and secures himself the Rome roads. And at my turn, I had to think about whether I just want to grab one of those leaders for 3 civil actions, Confucius or Hammurabi, or if I want to go for Boudica plus those 2 HA yellow cards. I don't want to grab the Colosseum, I don't like it that much in 3-player games, and there's still the chance that Library or Stonehenge could be revealed. Those wonders I like a lot more. I definitely thought about Hammurabi. There's maybe still a very small chance that maybe one of my opponents could try to go for Caesar and make things a bit awkward for me. And in general, Hammurabi in third position can be a bit vulnerable. At least one of my opponents I have to expect to go for Confucius, and then there will be a lot of pushing happening. And I just get Boudica together with 2 yellow cards. Maybe not the greatest ones, but Boudica is also just quite a strong leader. And with that, I at the end was willing to just go for her together with those yellow cards. Maybe just going for Hammurabi is also fine though, because now I give Hammurabi for 1 civil action for Malakesh, which I think is quite strong for him. Malakesh goes for Hammurabi, elects him, takes the Colosseum, builds a mine, increases his population, so a very straightforward turn, is not willing to wait for the Stonehenge, especially because I could take that wonder away from him. Bright Future then goes for Confucius, I think that makes sense, he builds a mine, increases his population. And at my turn, it's interesting because there's an early copy of Code of Laws. I have already some additional signs from Boudica, but there is also the Stonehenge that I can take. However, it gets a bit civil action intensive to take a Code of Laws for the Stonehenge. If I go take those cards, then I have to decide whether I want to elect Boudica or build a mine, so it would come at a cost of some economical development. So I thought about maybe I just elect Boudica, build a mine, grab the Code of Laws, and wait for an H1 wonder. But Great Wall, St. Peter's Basilica, Taj Mahal, all of those wonders are not really great to build as a first wonder. Machu Picchu can be a bit of a gamble if you don't have the technologies. And at the end, I thought Stonehenge and Code of Laws is such a strong combination that I'm willing to take those, even if it costs me a bit of economical development. I could have also just passed on the Code of Laws, but I think if I have the Stonehenge, then the Code of Laws is just so strong, gives me such a quick boost to my economy that I was not willing to pass on that Code of Laws, and I was willing to delay the mine and just elected Boudica here. I draw the border conflict and the wealthy territory. Malakesh seeds and opens the development of agriculture. He goes for an early Nostradamus, keeps him in hand for now. He has the Colosseum, and with that the third military action. As soon as things might get dangerous, with him having Hammurabi, he can just elect Nostradamus. So I do think that is quite strong for him, and definitely makes sense to spend 2 civil actions taking him here. Brightfuture seeds and opens the development of trade routes. He increases his population, takes the second copy of Code of Laws. He also has some additional science, of course, from Confucius. So at the next turn already, he might develop the Code of Laws and get a quick 5th civil action going as well. Now it's my turn. I have a bit of corruption issues, but I can also solve those. I will take a science from Boudica while I have already the Stonehenge. Taking the science just helps me to make it a bit easier to get out of corruption here, because now I can just build the third mine and the second lab, and it just gets me out of corruption. And then with my last civil action, I take those swordsmen. With Boudica, I think it's just especially important to have one of those military texts in hand, so that if one of my opponents at some point will get stronger, I have something efficient to invest into. And also generally, of course, getting one of those military texts for one civil action is always an opportunity that you have to consider. I don't have a free population, but I can save up even more food. It might again cause me some corruption issue at the next turn, but I have the Code of Laws already in hand. I can develop that at the next turn and maybe just spend some actions increasing my population. Hopefully that won't be too bad. I draw the cultural influence and the knowledge of the ancients. Malakesh finishes the Colosseum, increases his population twice, and then takes the rich land. So again, just a very efficient turn. Brightfuture seeds and opens the development of politics, so some additional draws for everyone. He develops this turn the Code of Laws, takes Jan Žižka for 2, maybe as a strong tactic for him, increases his population, and builds the first step of the Rome roads. Now it is my turn. With the development of politics, I've drawn those cards, and especially the Legion tactic I was very happy to see, with me having taken the swordsman. I, at my turn, decide to not push. I have no free population, I have some issues to get out of corruption. I will actually take a resource from Boudica. With having all of the signs from the Stonehenge this turn, I can take the resource and it doesn't cause me corruption issues, so just to balance things out a little bit, I took the resource. But even more science is also never bad, so I could have maybe also just taken the science here. But I developed a Code of Laws, I increased my population 3 times with the frugality that's possible, and now I have a lot of free population available. And then with my last civil action, I decided to build a step of the Stonehenge. Maybe I could have also taken a warfare, which can be an interesting tech to have, with me still getting some additional science. Maybe I could have also just played a cultural heritage. That is a civil action efficient move, just building a step of the wonder, but just in case that there is a quick masonry coming down the row, I could potentially also regret having already built that first stage, but there is no masonry on the row, and with that I was at the end fine to just play it civil action efficient and build the first step. And who knows, I could maybe even have the option at the next turn to finish the Stonehenge and take the St. Peter's Basilica. With already having 1 happy face from this wonder, then the St. Peter's Basilica would really give me a lot of happy faces, and that could be an interesting combination to have. I revealed a Legion tactic to be able to keep the new deposits in the foray in hand. With having the tactic and with Malakesh having Nostradamus, I think the foray has quite some potential, and the new deposits I think generally is a good event that if played in the right moment can create some nice value. Malakesh takes the monarchy. Potentially could have even revolted immediately afterwards and then maybe build a warrior to get out of corruption, but instead he takes the St. Peter's Basilica. He also has a wonder that already grants him a happy face. It's a bit expensive, he also doesn't have the most resource income, but on the other hand I think it synergizes very well with the Colosseum and also with the drama that he has in hand. There's Bach, there's Gaudi in the game, Marlene Dietrich, so he is setting himself up nicely for some of those culture leaders. He also then increases his population. Brightfuture seeds and opens the development of warfare. He finishes the Rome roads, elects Jan Žižka, takes the reserves in the rich land. Now it's my turn, and this turn with Brightfuture having gotten stronger, I need to use Boudica's additional military resources anyway. With that I kinda need to get stronger anyway, and with that I thought it is now indeed quite nice to play the foray into the deck, because the event deck just hasn't flipped yet. Also Malakesh hasn't elected Nostradamus yet, so he doesn't see that I put the foray into the deck, but even if he does, he might not be able to compete for it, so I thought that is now quite a nice time to put that event into the deck. So I push, and the development of settlement is revealed. And this turn there, indeed, and the masonry ended up being available for one civil action for me. Now this one step hurts a little bit because as you can see, I will still end up going for the masonry, and I could have maybe just played a cultural heritage now basically as a free action. But I of course didn't know that the masonry would basically appear immediately after my turn, and in some other scenarios it might have been a lot better that I had maybe built that step. But now in hindsight, I should have maybe just played a cultural heritage. I still take the masonry, it can at least still save me one civil action, and on that wonder I haven't upgraded any urban buildings yet, so I think it's still a strong technology for me, and I can do an interesting turn. Actually, I don't get Boudica's additional resource because I took the free warrior, so I sadly only get one resource, which is even a bit bad, but I was not willing to miss out on the free warrior, of course, in order to get the 2 resource. That of course wouldn't make sense. But I take the masonry. I also take the alchemy. I think that will be nice having those together. But I think I should, now with having seeded a fray, delay the alchemy for now. Instead, I can develop the masonry, build 2 stages with 1 civil action to be back at 4 science, and then I have just enough science to develop the swordsman, build a swordsman, and going up to 6 strength. I draw the medieval army tactic. Malakesh this turn revolts into monarchy, switches to Nostradamus, takes the alchemy, builds a warrior to get out of corruption. Good time to switch to Nostradamus now that the event deck has flipped. Brightfuture takes this copy of Knights, maybe as a good Knights tactic for Jan Žižka. With that he is maybe quickly has the potential to take the strength lead here. He actually builds 2 Knights, takes the breakthrough, but interestingly he for now doesn't reveal any tactic, which is weird. I do think if he would have one like medieval army or phalanx, he would reveal it now to just get strongest. That could definitely matter for some potential strength events. And I don't think it makes sense for him to hold those back with me and Malakesh being on warrior, so that could actually be an indicator that he has no tactic in hand, which makes his decision to take Žižka for 2 civil actions maybe a bit more questionable. But who knows, maybe he has also some reasons to actually keep the tactic in hand for now. But with him not revealing a tactic, I'm actually the strongest at my turn, and with that I was willing to push the new deposits here, even though at this point I don't really know how nice those will end up being for me. I will this turn not take this copy of iron, but I also thought it will take a little bit of a while until this will be revealed, and maybe I can either go into the second copy of iron, or maybe I get a bit lucky and get an early copy of coal. So at the end I was fine seeding that, but especially because I'm the strongest, but there is also the chance that it might backfire. There is the foray revealed, so that event worked out quite well. I and Brightfuture gained some additional food and resources. I finished the Stonehenge this turn. I took 2 resources and 1 food from the foray, and as well as 1 science from Boudica. While I had a lot of additional science, I also invested a lot of science into Code of Laws and Masonry, so I still think I can use some additional science here. And then with having taken 1 food, I can now increase my population. I actually won't increase my population, but it then again allows me to increase my population at the next turn with 4 food, unless there are rats revealed. But this turn I have some different stuff to do. I will finish the Stonehenge. I will go for 1 alchemy upgrade to get a bit of science income going. With the masonry, those upgrades are quite cheap. I will then use my military actions now in H1 to upgrade those warriors to swordsmen, going up to 8 strength and remaining the strongest for now. If I wouldn't increase my strength at all, I would be the weakest at Malakesh's turn, and so I upgrade those warriors to swordsmen with my last 2 resource. I thought about just going for another alchemy upgrade, but now that I haven't gone for the second one yet, I have a very nice use case for this urban growth that I can take here. And as you can see, I also go for Saladin. A bit of a greedy call maybe. I could also take Joan of Arc, get my 3rd military action, because being 2 military actions can be a bit dangerous, but at least I have already 8 strength. I have now already upgraded those warriors to swordsmen, meaning that I maybe won't have to spend as many military actions in H2. Maybe that will make it somewhat fine. And also I don't have any religion for Joan of Arc, which makes her a bit weaker. And also Saladin was in this spot. If I take Joan of Arc, the iron drops down to 1 civil action for Malakesh, which does make a difference. I think he will go for it either way, so I just would give him a civil action if I go for Joan of Arc instead of Saladin. And I was willing here to just get the additional civil action from Saladin going instead of just the 3rd military action from Joan of Arc. That means that the cultural heritage at the end sadly will be discarded. I might have had opportunity to play it when instead of building the first step, but now that will be gone. That's also not too bad. The scientific breakthrough is revealed, which gives me immediately now a bit more science than my opponents, which I was happy to see. Malakesh indeed will go for the iron. I think it makes sense for him to start with the iron instead of the alchemy, because he has still this wonder lying around and he will need some resource income for it. He will go for 2 upgrades and potentially can even just finish the St. Peter's Basilica at the next turn if he wants to. Now it's Brightfuture's turn. He increases his population. Interestingly, takes the bread and circuses for 2 and builds 1. Could be an indicator that there are maybe some happy face related events coming. And yeah, and also there's of course Pierre in the game, so he also sets up nicely for him. And we can see he indeed just copies the Legion tactic. So the bread and circuses might have also been to just be now the strongest instead of the weakest. Also another reason to go for that arena, but we can see Brightfuture doesn't have any Knights tactic, and it's a bit awkward, of course, for him now being at that Legion tactic instead of maybe having something like Phalanx, which would give him a lot more strength and also 1 more culture per turn. Now it is my turn. I can't use my politics phase. H2 starts. And I will upgrade my second lab here, and there are some interesting first cards revealed from H2. There's the strategy as well as the selective breeding. And the strategy could of course be quite nice. I really need some additional military actions here. And the strength of course could also be nice, because at the moment, as you can see, if I end my turn at 8 strength, I would be the weakest. But as said, there's also this copy of selective breeding. When we take a look at my opponents, Malakesh has no upgraded farms yet, Brightfuture has no upgraded farms. There's still this 1 copy of irrigation in the row, but I don't know whether my opponents will end up taking it. And there is also no ocean liner service in the game, so if I don't take the selective breeding now, there is a real danger that maybe I could miss out on it completely, and that I think is quite dangerous. So at the end I ended up taking, after increasing my population to get out of corruption, I ended up taking the selective breeding. I was still having some hope that maybe the strategy could make it back to me, because Malakesh doesn't have the biggest science income, Brightfuture as well, so maybe they will just pass on it, but I also definitely have to expect that it might be taken away. And with that, I ended up taking this monarchy. It's a late monarchy, but just being able to get the 3rd military action going might be quite nice. I'm not that dependent on an H2 government drop, so if a good opportunity arises, I can maybe just go for the monarchy and maybe even do revolution, because as you can see at the end of my turn, I actually take the strength here from Saladin, which opens up the possibility to maybe just revolt at the next turn and build another swordsman to get out of corruption. Taking the strength from Saladin here makes it that I'm the strongest instead of the weakest, so that can make quite a big difference for those events. So in such situations, I think it can be worthwhile to take the strength, even when you don't have clear knowledge about the events. But I think Brightfuture, with first of all, some turns ago, building 2 knights to go up to 6 strength, and now going for the bread and circuses, he did put some effort into making himself the strongest, so I thought it might be worthwhile to take the strength here, and then maybe it's also an opportunity, if I don't waste the civil action, to just go for revolution at the next turn. However, I also have enough science to go for the monarchy peacefully, and what also is a possibility is to maybe go into coal. If an early coal is in the row, I think then, even if it's in 3, I can just take it, develop it, go for an upgrade. That's also why I hesitated just building another swordsman. I could have built another swordsman, taken the civil action from Saladin, but the new deposits are coming, and with that, if possible, if a coal is available, I want to go into that as quickly as possible. I draw a war and a mobile artillery. For now, the mobile artillery looks difficult to use, but who knows, maybe a transition will be possible. Malakesh seeds, and I do get rewarded a bit for taking the strength. The crusades are revealed, and losing that winning that instead of losing it is definitely a bit of a swing. Malakesh is willing to go into the strategy, which is a bit expensive. I mean, it helps him with the strength. Might also be an indicator that there is some strength-related stuff coming, but he had already 4 military actions. Now he is at 6, so he is playing it Payada style like with more military than civil actions. He also upgrades his last mine, takes the engineering genius, and builds a warrior to get out of corruption. Now it's Brightfuture's turn. He builds yet another knight. Again, another indicator that there might be some strength-related stuff coming. He also goes into iron and takes the breakthrough. Now it's my turn and I have a bunch of different options here. I could have just done a normal revolution and maybe build a swordsman to get out of corruption. If I then take the strength of Saladin, I could again make sure to be the strongest, so that is definitely a real option and could be fine. I could also just take this Conmon in hand, but I would need to pay 3 civil actions for it while I have the monarchy already in hand, and I would not be able to develop it this turn, and generally the higher science cost might be problematic, because now when I develop the monarchy already, if I don't do anything about it, I have not enough science to go into coal at the next turn, and with the Conmon that would be even more the case, and I also need to get into selective breeding, so just the monarchy being a bit cheaper is already an advantage. And then there's one specific card in the row that I thought might be strong to secure for myself. And it might look a little bit odd, because at the moment it looks like a very ambitious project, but what I wanted to secure for myself is actually the railroad. The railroad over the last months has really... my evaluation has gone higher and higher, so I play more and more around the railroad. I think this is a mix of wonders. It's the best wonder that I can get. It works very well together with my masonry, and as soon as I get maybe a coal going, that allows me to maybe have a potentially very strong late game economy. Additionally, if I don't take it, I thought maybe Brightfuture might go for it, and then he has that strong wonder, and me at some point getting the 5 strength from it instead of him getting the 5 strength, I think is potentially quite a big swing, and it, as said, allows me to have some very nice late game potential. There are at least the new deposits coming, which might at the end help me being able to finish it, and so I kind of wanted to secure myself that, and that was then also a reason, first of all against the revolution, and second of all against taking Conmon for 3 here. So I at the end ended up going for the monarchy peacefully. I actually built the 3rd lab, and maybe it's controversial, maybe I could have just taken, maybe I could have just built the swordsman with the 3 resources, and then taken the strength from Saladin again in expectation that there might be another strength event coming. But I don't know it for certain. There are definitely some indicators, but I don't know that for certain. What I do know for certain is that the new deposits are coming, and this lab will allow me to, if a coal is available at the next turn, which certainly might be the case, I could just take and develop it and go for 1 upgrade and then potentially profit more from the new deposits. So because of that, I ended up rather building that additional lab. And at least there's Bach in the game. If I maybe should end up getting him, I can maybe also upgrade this to an opera. Otherwise, I will have to see if I will end up being able to keep this until the end, but for now it just increases my economy a bit, and when I don't have to take the strength of Saladin, when I just accept and I'm the weakest, then I'm also getting an additional civil action out of him. So at the end I thought the potential economical benefits with being able to go for coal, a civil action from Saladin, and of course the increased science income are enough value for me to now not longer fight for being the strongest. But especially me being able to get into coal was very important here, and then I take the breakthrough for 1 that's just too strong to pass on, and the railroad. What I do pass on is the spread in circuses and the organized religion, so there is maybe a potential danger of me missing out on a happy face solution, but Brightfuture has already bred in circuses, Malakesh has the St. Peter's Basilica, so I felt like I can wait for the 2nd copy of organized religion, or even better, maybe the team sports with beer being in the game. I take the civil actions, meaning I have now 7 civil actions going, and I was quite happy to get this international trade agreement that really might help me with the resources and might immediately give me a bit of additional value with the new deposits coming. Malakesh seeds and opens a Confucius event, so no strength event revealed yet. He this turn will finish the St. Peter's Basilica, which is just enough to get him out of corruption, takes the selective breeding, which will now mean that Brightfuture has missed out on a food solution, potentially, which is potentially dangerous for him, and Malakesh takes the engineering genius. I think the Harvard College could be something really strong for him, and he maybe will plans on taking that at the next turn. Brightfuture seeds, and now I do get punished, and maybe if I would have knowledge about that, I might have been willing to take the strength. Maybe even not then, but that's definitely one of the most influential events that could be in there, and that of course now it explains why Brightfuture did put a lot of effort into trying to be the strongest, and I sadly lose the yellow token now. At least for the moment it doesn't make a big difference. I still don't lose any food to famine. I still have just 2 unhappy workers lying around, but as soon as I get some food income up and I can increase my population, of course I will notice it. And also if something like Pestilence or Reign of Terror should be revealed, that now would be a lot more annoying than it otherwise would have been. So I was a bit afraid of potential events like that now. Brightfuture goes for the Harvard College himself. I think for him it's also a strong wonder, and maybe there is also a bit of a denial factor involved with Malakesh now not being able to get that. It's my turn. I offer the international trade agreement to Brightfuture. At this point of the game, there are actually not any big metagaming reasons involved, because the 3-player games went on in parallel, and maybe Malakesh had a bit of a better position, but at this point I didn't know that he would win 2 3-player games, and instead I just looked at which of the players can use the additional food a bit more, and Malakesh has 3 food lying around. He might, of course, get into selective breeding, but it would also be a big science investment for him. And if I give him +1 food, then he can just immediately after his next turn increase his population. Then he also doesn't have those blue tokens lying around. So I think that just would help him a bit more than Brightfuture, who is now only at 1+1. Of course, with the reserves, it also allows him after his next turn to increase his population, but he doesn't have the issue of having a lot of blue tokens lying around, and at least he needs to spend the action on playing the reserves. So at the end, I offered this pact to Brightfuture. To get out of corruption, I will start by building the first 2 stages of the railroad. I then definitely wanted to take this rich land so that if one of the coals is available, sadly for now they haven't shown up, but if one of them will be available, I wanted to be able to get into them immediately, especially if the new deposits are not out yet. Then I still have 4 civil actions left, and I just end up taking a bunch of yellow cards and a cavalryman to be prepared for tactics. I take the wave, I take the urban growth, I'm still in bronze mines, and so I think getting all of those yellows is quite nice for me, and the cavalryman of course might be important to have for tactics. I again remain the weakest for now. Malakesh seeds and a good harvest is revealed, so Brightfuture also immediately gains some additional value out of the pact. Malakesh increases his population, so he is now able to increase his population anyway. He takes the journalisms, which the next turn he will be able to go for. He also takes the statue. The Harvard is gone, but he can maybe still use that engineering genius nicely on the Statue of Liberty, and he goes for even another warrior to maybe just get out of corruption. Brightfuture seeds and opens the new deposits, so I sadly was not able to get coal up before of this, but because of me being a bit lucky and drawing this pact, I at least still gained the same amount of resource as Brightfuture, and if the coal still wouldn't have been available at my next turn, then without the new deposits, things could have been awkward, because I would not have enough resources to finish the railroad. Investing resources anywhere else would be somewhat awkward, but now I can at least finish the railroad at the next turn, which will give me a strength boost and a small resource boost for now at least. Brightfuture finishes the Harvard College at the next turn, maybe finally can go into Conmon, and he then takes an efficient upgrade, which he is able to use immediately to go for another mine upgrade. My turn I don't push, as I will go from weakest to strongest during this turn. As you can see, sadly still no coal available, but this turn it's not too bad. Upgrading 1 coal mine would give me +2 resource income, this gives me +1, but it makes me the strongest, so even with the coal in the row, I might have decided to just finish the railroad here, so this turn it's actually not too bad that those coals aren't available, and after having finished the railroad, there are still quite a bunch of civil actions that I have to spend. And I'm now at 2+5, so even if I spend 1 resource, I still have enough to go for coal, even without the help of a yellow card, which is at the end why I was willing to go for the selective breeding and use the rich land to get a bit of food income already going, while still having just enough resources to go for 1 coal upgrade and finally get a big resource boost out of the railroad. And that also potentially allows me to increase my population at my next turn. As said, if there's something like Pestilence coming, that could be annoying, but now I could lose the population and increase my population again. So I think it's just good to get that going. Then I have still 4 civil actions left, and I again just ended up taking some cards. I could have upgraded this last slab, but for now I wanted to leave myself with the option to delete it and not commit to upgrading it yet, even though I can basically do it for free even with the urban growth. But yeah, I have 2 unhappy workers, and who knows, maybe I need this worker somewhere else at some point, so I was not willing to upgraded yet. Instead, I just took some cards, the Revolutionary Idea, the Opera, and the Rifleman to be prepared for H3 tactics, because I have this mobile artillery that I actually kept over the Conquistadors, because yeah, I think the Conquistadors is just, they are just so bad. And for the mobile artillery, there's always the chance that I can maybe somehow do a transition. So despite me having swordsmen and cavalrymen in hand, I rather kept the mobile artillery than the Conquistadors tactic, which maybe is of course wrong on my part, but if it's not wrong, then maybe it's also a testament to just how bad the Conquistadors tactic is. And yeah, but with having not a great tactic for me to use at the moment, I wanted to have the Rifleman for H3 tactics. Additionally, it would be an extremely important card for Malakesh, and generally one of my opponents likely might want to have the Rifleman, and now I know that at least one of them for certain will also miss out on the Rifleman. I take the Opera because there is still Bach in the game. I still need an H2 leader, so I wanted to be prepared for him. I thought maybe if I get the coal and then have a strong economy and also have the additional strength of the railroad, then maybe using Bach to turn that economy into culture points could be a good way for me to continue the game. So I wanted to have this option available. And I took the right copy of it. First of all, I'm not that much to deny it, because Malakesh has the drama, but maybe with having that many resources, he would prefer having the Opera instead. But taking the right one also makes it that the frugality will be discarded before Brightfuture's turn, and I do think it could be a good option for him to maybe at his turn just take the frugality, use it with the Harvard College, and increase his population twice. So I think that could be useful for him, and now this card will be discarded for him. I draw some events, the civil unrest and the prosperity. Malakesh seeds and opens the red. So sadly, my additional food income that I went into in the last turn was not really worthwhile in hindsight, but at least Brightfuture loses even more food. Malakesh this turn will go into journalism, so he definitely needs some additional science income. With that, he can build his journalism now, and at the next turn maybe go for the selective breeding finally. He also finishes the statue and goes for the architecture. Brightfuture seeds and opens the vast territory, and as you can see, I'm actually willing to bid quite a lot for this, because Brightfuture has the second copy of cannons, and the other one, or the first one, and the second one is on the row, so I know for certain that I will, at my next turn, get a copy of cannons. The coals still haven't shown up, so I don't know if I even have a chance to get into coal yet, and I have this wave in hand, and I can relatively cheaply maybe now make a transition into a good tactic. And so I was actually willing to go all in into this one. I was willing to send the whole Legion tactic plus my card, and it's at the end also enough for me to win it. It's very costly, of course, but the 3 yellow tokens are quite nice for me. My yellow bank now looks a lot more healthy. I have enough science to get into both cannons and cavalryman. I have this wave, and I don't know yet if I even would have the chance to get into coal at my next turn. So yeah, I just thought I want to secure myself that colony, also prevent one of my opponents from getting it, and yeah, so I was willing to pay that big price here. Brightfuture finally gets into Conmon, goes for Napoleon. With that, he remains somewhat threatening. He goes into cannons, plays the reserves before he loses them to the end of the age, and interestingly goes for the Eiffel Tower. With building the cannon, he is now at 17 strength. However, at least I know that he doesn't have the mobile artillery available, at least for now, because I kind of need to reveal it now, otherwise I would be in danger of an aggression. So he soon will be able to copy it, which certainly makes him a bit threatening, but he also, as said, missed out on a food solution, so it would be at some point quite costly for him to go for a military push, as he doesn't have any food income going and would need to start destroying some stuff. The Eiffel Tower is also a bit ambitious, because he is only at 5+5. He can't finish it at the next turn unless he gets help from the events. And that's just quite expensive. The happy phase might be very helpful for him, though. For example, if the age doesn't end before his next turn and he can finish it in 2 turns, then maybe the happy phase prevents him from disbanding anything. Now it's my turn, and I'm not willing to push here. I don't want to get disrupted. I just play the wave. There's indeed no coal available, so those 2 copies have been quite late, but I at least was able to do some other stuff. I play the wave of nationalism, I take the cannons, develop the cavalryman, build a cannon, build a cavalryman. I'm at 11 strength, and if I reveal the tactic, I'm even at 16 strength, so I was now able to make quite a nice transition into this new tactic. Then I have 2 civil actions left, and I end up taking the reserves and playing the revolutionary idea. I actually passed in the team sport, so that's definitely a bit controversial, but there is still this copy of Organized Religion coming down the row, and if I should end up getting Bach, then maybe it's fine to just maybe upgrade this one lab into Opera and hope that at some point I might be able to get Marlene Dietrich, or maybe Steve Jobs, or maybe professional sports. So I rather took the reserves, but I also kind of didn't want to take the team sports because I wanted to keep myself maybe with some small chances to also get Maria Theresa, which is why I also didn't increase my population. Maria Theresa could also end up being quite a strong leader for me, and maybe could still be available for me if I don't take those team sports. However, looking at Malakesh's turn, he has this Republic Robespierre available for him. Of course, he is already in monarchy, but he has a statue, he has lots of military actions and few civil actions. Despite having monarchy, I think that could be a very strong option for him, and if he goes for those 2 cards, then Maria will be discarded anyway, and then I again might have to hope to get Bach maybe at my next turn. So yeah, maybe I could have just taken the team spots, but if I indeed get Bach, maybe I don't need the happy faces as much, and maybe I still have a chance to get the Organized Religion, and I also felt like the reserves and the potential additional resources that I might get from that card might end up being very helpful for me. Because the age will end before my next turn, take the strength from Saladin. There's even the chance that it could make a difference if now maybe a strength event is revealed. But Malakesh doesn't push, instead he offers the scientific cooperation. Brightfuture actually rejects, which at the first look looks a bit odd, because Malakesh is at 5+4, Brightfuture is at 6+6. But as said, Malakesh might go for Robespierre Republic, and as you can see, indeed, he will do this. And if the pact would have been accepted, he could have developed a Republic for 3, the drama potentially for 1 science, the selective breeding for 3 science, so he had a chance to develop 3 techs immediately, and with that I think it's understandable that Brightfuture rather rejects this pact. Malakesh nonetheless will go for Republic Robespierre. I do think that makes a lot of sense for him and improves his position quite a lot. He then takes the cavalryman, the reserves, destroys a lab in order to build a journalism, which also gets him out of corruption, and is now at +8 culture income. 40+8, I was a bit worried that he is now starting to run a little bit away with the game. Age 3 starts, I lose Saladin. Brightfuture seeds, now sadly I'm not the strongest any longer, but there's also no strength event, instead the inhabited territory, which might have been even better than the vast one, but I didn't know that it was coming, and now I can't bid that much for it. Malakesh wins it. At least he has to pay 2 warriors, but I think it's still a relatively cheap price and improves his position. Brightfuture disbands the unit of knights, builds arena, upgrades a mine, takes the revolutionary idea under patriotism. Now it's my turn. If I would have had an aggression in hand now, and I might have discarded one early on, I think I would have tried it against Malakesh, but sadly I don't have one in hand. I have this war in hand, but Malakesh might have something like Hussars, and yeah, I just want to get into coal, I don't want to build a unit or something this turn. So at the end, at least I'm the strongest, I ended up just pushing the civil unrest, which is a bit risky, because I will end up also not taking this organized religion, so maybe there's a chance I might get hit by it. The freedom of movement is revealed. At the first look, I kind of struggled finding a solution for that. I didn't really know what to do with it. But I will now get into coal, and after upgrading I will have some decent resource income, even when I now, as you can see, put a pros somewhere else. And this religion, first of all, immediately gives me a happy face and an additional culture income, and also with going for Bach now, that religion I can upgrade it to opera later on, and then it saves me some resources. So, and also at some point I might need the population in the opera, but maybe I don't need every population in the mine. So population wise, at some point I might want to disband the mine anyway, and now I can maybe basically move this mine somewhere else where I want to have the population without losing the resource cost value. Of course, the downside is that for now I'm losing some resource income, and for now I rather would like to have the mine than the religion, but Still, I save some resources now when I upgrade the Opera, which makes a bit up for the lost resource income, and at some point I maybe don't need as much population in my mines anyway, which is why I at the end was actually willing to put that mine into religion. I also thought about putting the mine into an HA farm, but at the end the religion felt better to me. I go for the coal, go for an upgrade, go up to 8 resource income, and then I just end up taking and electing Bach, getting a bit of culture income going. For the moment I still have 2 happy phases, the age already ended, I can upgrade a lab into Opera, so I was somewhat fine with skipping the organized religion, hoping that I either get Marlene or maybe a copy of professional sports. I could have gone for Anthony Gaudi for civil action cheaper. He, for the moment, would give me the same culture income, he would give me the same science discount for the Opera, but at some point Bach might give me more easily more culture income, and also being able to upgrade the religion, this lab, into Opera I think is quite beneficial, which is why I was willing to pay the additional civil action here. I draw some cards, the Impact of Happiness, the Armed Intervention, and a Colonization card. Malakesh develops the cavalryman, plays the reserves, builds the cavalryman, another cavalryman, maybe has to be afraid of an aggression potentially. It looks like maybe doesn't even have a defense card in hand for now. He takes the fundamentalism, the rifleman, so maybe some preemptive preparation against a potential war. Brightfuture seeds and opens the developed territory. Again, I can't bid too much on it. I still bid 1 unit and 1 card, but I'm not even sure if I would really like to win it. But I also didn't want to see one of my opponents winning it too cheaply. And again, at least Malakesh, who actually had even more defense cards, so yeah, so that wasn't the reason why he increased his strength by that much. But he wins this colony and has now even more yellow tokens available. But things might get a bit dangerous for him, because Brightfuture actually copies the tactic now, but he will also go for Pierre with that he drops in strength a bit, but he immediately gets some big culture income, and what he's also getting is this early mechanized agriculture, which really helps him with getting a bit of food income going. On the other hand, with spending 6 resources for this upgrade, the Eiffel Tower now looks like it might take quite a while until it is finished. Now it's my turn. I think I push the refugees in there, which is a bit dangerous. But maybe I can at some point just go for another army, and I was hoping that at least I won't be the weakest, and I, well, with that was willing to push. The Ravages of Time are revealed. I lose the Stonehenge, which is a bit annoying. The happy phase would have been quite useful. Now maybe I could potentially regret it, not having a happy phase solution available. I this turn go for the Opera. But one line that I considered here was to go into the oil. Before I develop the Opera, I'm at 11 science. I can go into oil and maybe then take the revolutionary idea, and then with the railroad my resource production would really explode. But despite getting the revolutionary idea, I just felt like I might not have the science available for it yet, and maybe also not the actions. I have only 6 actions, and I have already 8 resource income, so I might just struggle to invest those resources, and maybe I can't really make up for delaying the culture income that I'm getting by developing this Opera now. So I develop the Opera, I upgrade a lab to the Opera so that I have more happy phases, and then I increase my population in order to build another unit, going up to 19 strength, and I then take the revolutionary idea and the efficient upgrade. And things are a little bit dangerous here, because Brightfuture, if he has an early war drawn, could maybe go for another army, maybe he gets the military theory. But I have the chance to get potentially Marlene Dietrich. It's not certain that he has a war drawn, and I also felt a little bit behind, because maybe we can do this now at the end of my turn, because we didn't really take a look at the overview yet. And I felt a little bit behind and decided that I maybe can't allow myself to play too carefully. On the other hand, Brightfuture of course also has his difficulties with maybe not having the most resource available and so on. So it's certainly a bit dangerous, but if he manages to go for a war, it will only be a very small one. And yeah, so I at the end was willing to take that risk. And when we take a look at the overview, Malakesh has a somewhat significant culture lead, the income is relatively equal. Brightfuture, of course, will get the Olympic Games, so taking that into account, he is in front of me in culture. He still has this Eiffel Tower lying around, which maybe is now more problematic than helpful for him. And overall, I felt Malakesh is in the best position here as the culture lead, and both Bright Futures and my positions maybe are not that much stronger that we can easily catch up the culture gap. Malakesh gets some military techs now, can maybe then also stabilize in the military, and then it's definitely not looking bad for him. And I felt my position against Bright Futures position is probably fine. I have a bit more resource income. But Bright Future will get the Olympic Games, and so between us, I felt it's relatively tight in how strong our positions are. I have one less civil action in Bright Future, which I think is quite significant in H3. Being at 6 is oftentimes quite a bit limiting, and 7 feels more comfortable. Malakesh has to destroy the Colosseum, but because of his very big yellow bank, for the moment the happy face loss isn't really bothering him. He builds a rocket, increases his population again, and then plays the reserves, and interestingly builds a warrior, copies the mobile artillery tactic, and takes the reserves. Building this warrior is quite interesting. He really doesn't need it for the tactic. Could be because of colonies, but he sent a lot of colonization cards away, and I think it rather might be that he feels that not being the weakest might be important here, and that could indicate that there is a spicy event coming. He is passing the first copy of Air Forces, though, and he will get a bit punished for it, because the second one will appear immediately, and both Bright Future and I will now take a copy each, making it that Malakesh at the end misses out on them. Bright Future seeds, and maybe immediately we see the reason why Malakesh was willing to build this warrior. A bit unfortunate that it's a bit later in the deck. I could have, for example, at my turn, also have won this Cold War, and the additional science I think would be extremely helpful for me, maybe allowing me to go for an H3 government form at some point. But Malakesh did put some effort into now being stronger and does get rewarded for it. Bright Future takes the Air Forces, the military theory, does some military preparation here, takes the urban growth, also the tanks, increases his population, develops the Air Forces, builds an Air Force, is now at 32 strength. Now it's my turn. I will this turn increase my population, build another cavalryman so that I'm not in danger of an aggression, and so that I'm not the weakest, because soon there might be the refugees revealed that I've put into the deck. I take the second copy of Air Force. I think that's very important. There's also Gandhi here. Bright Future is going into a bit of a military heavy direction, has military theory in hand, patriotism, tanks. The thing is, Gandhi protects me maybe for one turn, and again it will be quite close and it's a bit critical on how I end my turn. But while Gandhi might make me safe for one turn, Bright Future just needs to develop the military theory at the next turn, which he is able to do, and then he can maybe declare war against Gandhi. Anyway, of course, that's always a bit more difficult to pull off, but yeah, Bright Future has declared the Olympic Games now, has gotten the Cold War, and I just felt like I want to keep Bach, and I want to survive not getting hit by a war without relying on Gandhi, and also leaving myself open for Marlene Dietrich. So I take the Air Forces, I take the reserves for some additional resources, I upgrade this farm for free with the efficient upgrade that I took at a turn before, and then I upgrade an HA Temple to an Opera, and at my next turn I could go for 2 Air Forces as a potential war defense, which would put me at 47 strength. When we take a look at Bright Future's turn, he can develop military theory, build an Air Force, which puts him at 47 strength as well, and he might be able to build something like an arena with the urban growth, or maybe even a warrior with the 2 additional resources that he has after playing patriotism and building an Air Force. So he again is in a position where maybe he could potentially go for a very small war, but it would only be a very small war, and there might still be some helpful events that he potentially has to be afraid of, and I just felt like I want to take some risks here in order to stay in striking distance with the culture. I draw 2 cards, the War of the Culture and the Impact of Harmony. Malakesh seeds, and there's actually an event on top that would have been a helpful one, but it's revealed before the war, the economic progress, and that at least makes it that Brightfuture is still missing one tiny resource to go for 2 air forces, because then things, if he has a war available, could have gotten a bit dangerous. Marlene Dietrich might have helped me, but I also have limited civil actions, so I can't easily take Marlene Dietrich, elect her, develop air forces, play those reserves. So but now that he can't go for 2 air forces, it might be maybe even more helpful for me. Even though, of course, I'm also limited on my military actions, but yeah, at least he's not able to go for 2 air forces if Malakesh takes those reserves. Otherwise, he might be able to do it with the Harvard College. And yeah, Malakesh goes for Gandhi after revolting into fundamentalism with Robespierre, so he gets some additional strength, gets a bit more culture from Statue, now also from Gandhi, and with having Gandhi, of course, makes it even more difficult for Brightfuture and potentially me to go for any war, with that maybe tries to preserve his culture lead, which he is still having. Brightfuture doesn't go for any war, so I was relieved to see that the refugees are revealed, which I at least end up not being part of. And Malakesh will lose a population, Brightfuture will gain one. Brightfuture this turn takes the engineering genius, builds a step of the Eiffel Tower, uses the engineering genius with the Harvard College, and with that is able to finish the Eiffel Tower. And he, with that, still gets it going, still gets some culture income going, and I think he also has a specific plan here, because we will see that he ends his turn at exactly 15 food. He took this engineering, and there's still this red cross in the game, so that's maybe the play that he is setting himself up towards. If a red cross drops, he might just be able to take it and potentially even finish it. If it's on the 3 civil action area, then he is actually, he is missing still some civil actions, so he might not be able to just take and finish it very easily. But if it's in the 2 civil action area, he could develop the engineering, take the red cross for 5 actions, and at least build 4 stages. But he's not perfectly prepared for it, but he starts setting himself up for that and allows, and still, even if you don't get all stages, just being able to build this without having to pay resources, and resources is something that Brightfuture doesn't have as many, is already quite strong, so he sets himself up nicely for that outcome. And we will also see that at my turn, the red cross is actually revealed. And I also, again, have to be a bit careful, because Brightfuture, wait, did he build an air force at his last turn? Or maybe I talked some nonsense with him being able to go for 2 air forces, because the second air force, of course, that he would build during this turn wouldn't even fulfill an army. But maybe there could have been a scenario where I could go for an air force in another army, so still with a bit more resources, he might have been a lot more dangerous here. And he is still somewhat threatening here. He can go for military theory, 1 air force, and then maybe also develop tank, go for an upgrade to tank. So he is still threatening to go something around 50 strength, which is a bit dangerous for me. I at this turn push the impact of happiness, because I will decide to go for Marlene Dietrich, which is not completely clear. I could also, for example, go for Mandela, but I at some point just need a happy face solution, and going for Marlene also allows me to push that impact, and with that I decided to go for her. The civil unrest is revealed. I was happy that I at the end don't get hit by that. And the red cross is revealed, but I can't deny it here, because I have more important things to do for myself, and Brightfuture at least maybe is not in a position to just take and finish it. And also I felt like Malakesh might just go for denial here, because if he lets Brightfuture have the red cross, Brightfuture is certainly coming closer and might end up out of the sudden having a better position here. And Malakesh, while he can't finish it immediately, can maybe still build 3 steps and also deny that option from Brightfuture. So I felt like I can just make Malakesh the denial and focus on some other stuff myself. And I play the revolutionary idea. I go into democracy. I take Marlene Dietrich. That is, going into democracy is a bit greedy, but I again felt like I maybe need a little bit of greediness. But if I go for the democracy, then I don't have enough science now to get into air forces, which is why I considered going for Mandela and increasing my population. Then I could take the revolutionary idea, thanks to Mandela being a civil action cheaper and giving me a civil action. But I would lose Bach, drop down in culture income, and I have actually an option to make myself completely safe from war here, even with doing that. But that comes with some other problems, because it would be to reveal the modern army tactic here. Then, with my 3 military actions that I have, I could develop the rifleman at the next turn and build 3 of them, and with Marlene fulfill 2 modern army tactics, and that actually would give me enough strength, 16 from the tactic compared to having 2 mobile artilleries, 9 from the units, so 25, 52, and 52 should be enough to be safe from any war. The problem with that, of course, would be that I would drop down to 17 strength, so I would be the weakest, and I would easily open myself up towards an aggression from Brightfuture. So I had to consider at this turn, first of all, do I want to play it so greedily that I go into democracy, or do I want to make sure that I'm completely safe from war and completely safe from an aggression? Or do I want to play it greedily, but if yes, then do I rather want to be a bit in danger of a war, or do I want to be a bit in danger of an aggression? And at the end, I came to the conclusion that I rather want to be a bit in danger of a war, and I also built another opera here. I thought about some lines where I already built a unit, but actually my strength potential doesn't really increase by that much, because if I build another unit, I get already another tactic with Marlene, but then I would need to build 4 more units in order to threaten 2 more tactics. So in order to really threaten more strength, I would need to build 2 units already, which would be quite costly, and it is not really possible if I want to go for Marlene and a democracy. And I'm now safe from an aggression, and the thing is, if I drop down to 17 strength, Brightfuture can just go for an aggression, get some value for free without having to spend anything on the military. He just gets some free stuff, and I get hit by it. If he goes for a war, at least he has to put some effort into it, and it won't be the biggest war. And at this point, I have really increased my culture production compared to him, so I'm at 63, and I felt like even if he hits me with a small war, at my next turn I then might be able to build 3 units, go for Marlene, have 2 tactics, and I might still maybe be able to, now that I have the democracy, upgrade a lab into opera, increasing my culture income even more, and maybe the war won't be big enough for Brightfuture to overtake me at the end. So I was hoping, first of all, if he would do this, it would at least he would need to spend his turn in order to do this. And with Bach, I, at my turn, at least might still be able to increase my culture income even further. And definitely things might look not too great for me here, but I felt like I might still have chances to finish before Brightfuture at the end. And with that, I felt like that is maybe a risk that I can take here, not being prepared to win a war and only being prepared to lose, to be closely behind in strength to Brightfuture. As said, I could have revealed a modern army tactic to make myself safe from a war. I could have just not played it as greedily. But at the end, I think this democracy gives me such a big boost. Marlene Dietrich allows me seeding the impact of happiness and just makes it that I have more than enough happy phases, and also helps me with the military. So I at the end was willing to go for a bit more of a greedy line. I draw some cards, also another advantage of not revealing the tactic. I get an additional card draw, and that additional draw ends up being the impact of progress, and if I get the last copy of Military Theory, that might actually end up being a very seedable event for me. Now it's Malakesh's turn. He spends almost all of his turn to take the red cross. He will indeed go for denial, and then he will develop the architectures, which might allow him to still save some resources in some urban buildings and finish the red cross more efficiently. The age might end before his next turn, so he can develop it now. And potentially not at the next turn. He disbands a warrior and builds a rocket, going up to 35 strength. Unfortunately for him, that still is just not enough for him to get him out of corruption, so he loses 2 resources here. Alright, now we are entering the territory that the drama that unfortunately happened at the end of the game will be about, and Brightfuture at his turn, first of all, decides to push. Unfortunately for me, the iconoclasm is revealed. It's a bit annoying. I lose a civil action at my next turn. I won't be able to upgrade my lab to opera, so that's not a great event for me. Brightfuture was prepared to go for the red cross, but Malakesh denied it from him. And when we take a look at his position, he is culture-wise still in the race, but he, with not having the opportunity to go for the red cross, is only at 8+6 resources, and he has no yellow card in hand that could give him resources to finish any of those resource wonders, and there's actually also no reserves or engineering genius left in the deck, so he's in a position where he can't finish any wonder, while Malakesh might just finish the red cross. I could go for either Empire State Building or United Nations. And with that, he decides to set himself up for war. He plays the patriotism, the military buildup, develops the military theory, builds a cannon, builds a knight, builds another air force, ends his turn at 57 strength, which is quite threatening. And with having developed a military theory, he actually has enough military actions to declare war even against Malakesh and build another air force to go up to 67 strength. The thing is, of course, that at my turn, he doesn't know if I end the age or not, so this is a bit of a gamble on his part, as I could just end the age. Maybe he has a strong aggression that he then can pull off, but he has not spent enough resources so that even an aggression would not allow him to go for a wonder, so he is probably hoping that maybe the age continues here. Now it is my turn, and this turn was a bit of a complicated one, because there are a lot of calculations needed to be done for this, and there are a lot of different ways how I could play it. I start the turn, and it was already not clear, but I start by ceding the impact of government. It's relatively equal for all players. Maybe I have a chance to get a military theory still, then it's slightly better for me, and it's the impact that the other impacts have some potential to backfire. Impact of progress, if I don't get the military theory, is just rather bad. Harmony can potentially backfire, and so the impact of government seemed like the safest impact to seed, which I will now push into the deck. The impact of agriculture is revealed, giving Malakesh +9, Brightfuture +11, and me +10. And this turn, there are 4 cards left in the deck, and one big decision this turn will be whether I should end the age or not. And there are a lot of different lines that I could take here, because I, of course, will get a step of the red cross now, and with that, with getting Marlene and potentially just building, if I end the age now, I could maybe even build another opera or something. I already am in a culture score that is, I'm even a little bit in front of Malakesh, but Malakesh at his turn, of course, will then be able to build 4 steps of the red cross and get 3 points for the colonies, so that's a some big culture that he would be getting from that. And my wonders are not too great. United Nations gives me +12 at the moment. I could, for example, evaluate the impact of harmony, which would give me +4 against Malakesh, so that would be 16 points. And for the Empire State Building, I at the moment win 2 categories, so that's also +16 points. If I take those wonders, however, then if I build a step, elect Marlene Dietrich, take a wonder, I get a bit close with my civil actions. And I just felt with me having, I have some decent impacts, but I felt my chances to win this game are not too great if I end the age now. Malakesh might be able to win it then. Then I, of course, had to think about how does everything play out when I don't end the game yet. And then, of course, the question is, can I set myself up towards being able to defend a potential war from Brightfuture? Because he can go up to build towards building another air force, going up to 67 strength. He has this urban growth, which he can either use to build another arena to go up to 68, or he can take and develop the professional sports if it is not denied by Malakesh, which would allow him to even go up to 70 strength. And the thing is, funnily enough, that I and Malakesh have an extremely similar strength potential. I will be able to go up to 66 strength with if I go for my best defensive line. I could maybe even I could potentially go for threatening even a lot more, but I can't actually build more, so only I can go up to 66 strength. We can also, when I play out my turn, see this a little bit more concretely. And Malakesh when I don't end the age, can only take one card from the row, and in order to defend myself, that will be the Patriotism, meaning Malakesh will get this copy of Patriotism, and then he has actually quite a lot of resources to potentially defend himself as well. He has 13, plus 6 is 19, plus 8 from here is 27, plus another 4 from Patriotism is 31. So those are quite a lot of resources, but he is somewhat limited in the actions, and of course, ideally he just would like to finish the red cross. If he just ignores the red cross completely and sets up his best defense, then if my calculations are not wrong, his strength potential is 66, so just the same as my strength potential. But the thing is, I have one important advantage, and that is that I can threaten to have a mechanized army tactic in hand, while Malakesh just doesn't have enough resources to go for 4 more rockets and 1 cavalryman. It's actually extremely close with 2 more resources, so just maybe not having corruption at the last turn, he would be able to at least threaten that to go into 3 mechanized army tactics, which then would be enough to threaten to win the war. But while I can't actually win the war, at least I can threaten to go for the mechanized army tactic, and that is what I will be doing here. I take this Patriotism, I increase my population 2 times, I build 1 cannon that already fulfills me another tactic, and I will build even yet another unit, and with Marlene Dietrich, it's now basically irrelevant whether I build a cavalryman or a cannon. I still just need to build 1 more unit to build a cavalryman, but building this cannon just really makes it look like that I have the mechanized army tactic in hand, and I then will take after playing the reserves for resources before I will lose them to the end of the age, will take computers and revolutionary idea. The computers could actually allow myself to potentially compete for something like Impact of Science, Bright Future, who knows, maybe did gamble a little bit and put it into the deck, with at the moment having the lead. With the computers, I could improve that. I could improve my Impact of Balance, my Impact of Architecture, so I felt like it's useful technology for me to have in hand. And with the revolutionary idea, I have enough science to go into air forces, and I have 15 plus 4 is 23 resources, meaning I can just build 3 air forces here, and actually that puts me even at 68 strength, so I can even go up to 68. But Bright Future, if Malakesh does not deny the professional sports, can go up to a little bit more, or at least the same amount of strength. But the thing is, if I have a mechanized army tactic, I can reveal it, I can go for 2 air forces, and then I would just win the war. And with that, I felt safe enough to not end the game here, because Malakesh, I felt, is still a bit in front of me, so if I am just equally vulnerable as Malakesh, Bright Future might just go for a war against me, and I have to be extremely careful about it. But with going for that turn, I set myself up so that hopefully I'm threatening enough to not be the target of the war, and Bright Future might go for a war against Malakesh, or at least it prevents Malakesh from just finishing the red cross in peace. At least he maybe has to delay it, because if he just finishes it now, his strength potential does drop a bit. So he has to be quite careful now, has to maybe play a bit of an annoying turn, and even if he doesn't get hit by a war, it still would be better for me, especially I have the higher culture income, I have some impacts that I can still put into the deck, so generally it is just also in some other senses good for me to not end the age yet. But yeah, my best out towards winning this game in this situation is if Bright Future indeed has a war and goes for it against Malakesh. So that is what I do for my turn. I draw the second modern army tactic. That's an interesting draw, because I thought about what happens if Malakesh has the modern army tactic, and indeed can actually threaten a bit more strength. I think he can go up to 68, and I thought maybe he could, even if he doesn't have the tactic, threaten that. The problem is with 68, my Bright Future would still tie in the war, so he might be willing to take the risk. Malakesh goes for taking professional sports, takes the Patriotism, develops the professional sports. He's not developing the Rifleman, so doesn't go for the line to threaten the modern army tactic, but it might not be the correct thing to do anyway. He takes the democracy. That might be a denial reason from me, because now the United Nations will be discarded before my turn, so I will not be able to go for wonder. he builds a rocket, getting him out of corruption and already making him a bit stronger. And now, of course, I was interested to see what will happen on Brightfuture's turn. First of all, H4 starts, and Brightfuture does indeed have a war against Malakesh. And yeah, now there was some controversies in the in-game chat because Malakesh was not too happy about how this played out. And I first of all have to say, of course, I can understand every frustration that he has about this, because it was, of course, unfortunate. Brightfuture setting up for war, and then I don't end the age. And maybe that's not what he expected would happen. But he did not only voice some frustration, but he also said that we two are teaming up, and he said that it's unsportsmanlike behavior, and that I did purposefully prolong the game in order to let Brightfuture do this war against him. And yes, that is correct. But in contrast to Malakesh, I don't think that this is in any way not in good sportsmanship, because in my opinion every player should, in the framework of a single game, it's a bit different when we also take the tournament standings into account, but I just tried to improve my position in this single game, and I think every player should just try his best to win the game. And Brightfuture, after the red cross was denied, of course maybe there would have been some other lines, but with not being able to finish a wonder, I, to be honest, don't really see a good different out for him to not finish at the third position here. So, and we will see with how this now plays out that he will end up, as said at the beginning of the video, the game is not finished, so I don't know yet how it ended, but he will be in a position with very good chances to finish second and even a shot at finishing first still. So I do think he definitely played in his own best interest with setting up for this gamble. And I just looked at my turn and thought about what happens if the game ends, what happens if it is prolonged, can I defend myself, and came to the conclusion that my best shot at winning the game might be that I delay the game for another turn. And so I think both Brightfuture and I just played the turn in what is in our own best interest. Of course, it's unfortunate from Malakesh's perspective how this turned out for him. So I can understand that he would be frustrated, but in my opinion, and I also already shared this specific game situation with some other well-known players, and in my opinion and also in their opinion, there's nothing even in the slightest unsportsmanlike in me prolonging the game. And I, to be honest, also don't understand exactly the moral guidelines that Malakesh expects from a player playing in a 3 and 4 player game, because if a player is vulnerable to war, I don't think that the last player has any moral obligation to just end the game. And also, I didn't even just skip all of my actions in order to not take any cards. I just played a relatively normal turn, and also generally with my bigger culture income and having those impacts in hand, it's just better for me if the game goes on for a little bit longer generally. So it would be completely weird for me if I now, just because Brightfuture sets up for a war, I'm out of the sudden forced to end the game, because otherwise it's for some reason unsportsmanlike. But even with the specific thought that, of course, I know that Brightfuture might hit Malakesh now with a war, that's, in my opinion, not in the slightest unsportsmanlike. And as said, all of the other players that I shared this game situation with agreed with me on that. That's just the dynamic in 3 and 4 player games sometimes, that sometimes it can be good for you if one player goes against the other. And I just played in my own best interest. I did not destroy my civilization or played a completely weird turn in order to allow this. I just played a normal turn and made sure that I can defend and prolonged the game. And I also, as I said, I don't understand exactly what the moral guidelines would be. Malakesh did not elaborate on that further. If, for example, I could end the age, but only if I take a lot of cards and play a bad turn, would I then still be obligated to end a turn so that he doesn't the age, so that he doesn't get hit by the war. How many cards exactly would need to be in a row, or would I need to take in order for me to be fine to prolong the game, in order to be unsportsmanlike? So I don't understand his logic exactly. As said, I can understand every frustration about this game maybe turning out in a way that he didn't expect. And also, I had now, of course, the opportunity to share my point of view. I have, and of course, Malakesh also has the opportunity to maybe in the comments share his point of view. But in my opinion, nothing in the slightest unsportsmanlike happened in this particular position, and I was even a bit perplexed. To me, I just thought about which is my best out to win, and I went for that play, which is what I think players should do. So, in my opinion, it would even be, you could maybe argue even more that it would be unsportsmanlike if I end the age against my own interest and take the opportunity from Bright Future away to declare the war. That, in my opinion, would actually be more. I mean, it would also not be unsportsmanlike. It's just a normal game decision whether to end the age or not. But I would see more a case actually for that being unsportsmanlike than to prolong the game and just play in my own best interest. And that it was, of course, unfortunate for Malakesh. He ended his turn, and then there was the war setup, and then he maybe expected the game to end, but I prolonged it, and it's not a given that the age ends. It's not something that he can count on, and that I'm forced to do or something. And yeah, but he is, of course, welcome to share his perspective in the comments, and to maybe so that you can also hear his side of this perspective. That's only fair. But yeah, he was very unhappy about it, was disappointed in me, and wrote that he thinks it's unsportsmanlike behavior, and that I and Bright Future teamed up in order to, that this war is possible. And unfortunately, the two-player games have already started, and he then, while this game was still ongoing, I mean, it's still ongoing, it hasn't ended yet, he also resigned in our two-player game, which was still in H1, and said he basically he gifts me a win, because winning apparently is more important to me than anything else. And so sadly, this we won't be able to take a look at this two-player game, and sadly there was now at the end of this game quite a bit of controversy. I'm of course also interested in your opinions, the viewers' opinion. If you maybe agree with Malakesh that there was something unsportsmanlike happening, or how you are viewing the situation is. But for example, when we go back to the second four-player game, if you maybe remember it, Bright Future was playing in first position, and he set up for a really big war with the modern army, and Carney was playing in last position. And I was really afraid that he would not end the age, so that Bright Future will go for a war against me, especially after I had won the first four-player game. And at the end, Carney ended the age, but if he would not end the age and Bright Future hits me with a war, in no way would I blame Carney in any way for doing that. I would just assume that he is playing in his own best interest, and that it is in his interest if Bright Future hits me with a war. And that, I think, is a very similar situation to this one. And I think you in the comments even said that Carney actually should have prolonged the game so that Bright Future hits me with a war. And but Malakesh thinks that this was some very unsportsmanlike behavior here, and but enough of that talk. I think I voiced how I see this situation. Malakesh is welcome to also write in the comments how he sees the situation and why he thinks that there is anything unsportsmanlike. As said, I think both Bright Future and I just play towards our own best interest. Bright Future declares war against Malakesh and builds an air force going up to 68 strength, takes the endowment, plays it for 6 culture, takes the computers, plays the revolutionary idea. I seed the impact of progress into the deck. I will decide to develop the military theory already this turn, instead of, for example, going for computers, which could help me for impact of science and balance, but the impact of government I have already seeded, and then I felt like maybe I should go for the military theory anyway, and then I can already push the impact of progress, and the impact of harmony maybe I want to wait with seeding anyway. Impact of colonies is revealed, which is the best for Malakesh. Malakesh, I can build a step on Malakesh's Red Cross. I play the reserves for food, which allows me to increase my population. I can build another opera, going up to 21 culture income. I develop the military theory, take the movies, play the revolutionary idea. Malakesh finishes the Red Cross, plays the patriotism, the reserves, destroys some stuff, builds some units, is with that at 61 strength. Then Brightfuture will steal 12 culture from Malakesh, so he is already getting closer to him. He will also go for a raid against me. I mean, Malakesh might just be able to defend, so I will lose 2 operas, which definitely hurts. He will go for the multimedia, for the computers, develops 2 technologies, builds a multimedia, which increases his culture and science income, destroys a farm in order to build a religion, to increase his culture income even further. And now we enter the time when I still actually have to play the final round. So we will now go into the play mode, and we can see together how this game ends. And as you can see, the game is actually quite close now. Brightfuture only being 3 culture behind Malakesh, so we can see that the way how he played it allowed himself to come back into this game. So it's not like he was out of contention and ruined the game by trying something completely desperate. It's just he is now completely back in the game. And at my turn, I will decide to not push here, because the impact of happiness is in the deck, and that being revealed or not being revealed could be quite swingy. And with now rebuilding my operas, as we can see at my turn, I will end the game with 153 culture, so I still have a somewhat reasonable lead. I have some impacts which will score me a bit of culture against Brightfuture, so I think my position is good to win here, and I should not take the risk of the impact of happiness being revealed. So I think seeding the impact of harmony would be wrong, even though I could maybe get 3 culture for seeding or something. But I think I will just rebuild those operas. I think the culture income that I'm getting from him and the points from the impact of happiness are just too big, because I could potentially also upgrade to computers and win an impact of science, but an impact of science might not even be good enough to really threaten me. Depends, of course, also on the last impact. So I think I just rebuild those operas that I lost to the raid. I play the computers, and then I think it's good when I set myself up towards another impact that would be rather bad for me, and that is the impact of competition. I can destroy this mine, build another cavalryman, even get a bit of additional strength. I could also build a swordsman. It gives me 1 point less for competition, but +2 for variety. But variety would be a neutral impact. If that is in the deck, I would be fine with it, but the competition could be quite bad, and maybe the 1 single point that I'm getting from not having a swordsman but a cavalryman might be important enough to maybe help me winning the game. So yeah, that's how the situation is looking. I will be at 153, and let's see how this game ends. Whoops. So and there's the impact of happiness. That's a very bad one now for Malakesh, so losing the Colosseum at the end does hurt him now. There's the impact of progress, which was also seeded by me. I gained +4 points against Brightfuture, meaning I have now a 21 elite against him. There's the impact of government, so all of my impacts are coming first. So now the next 2 impacts I don't have knowledge about. I have now a 22 points lead before Brightfuture. Let's see what the final 2 impacts, which I think were both seeded by him. Let's see what those are. There's an impact of strength, so Brightfuture is getting closer. He's only 8 points behind me, and there's a chance that he will make the great comeback and actually win this game. So let's see what the last impact is. It's the impact of tech. Oh, I get +12 from that. Brightfuture +20, and Malakesh gets +12. So at the end, it's actually a tie between me and Brightfuture. So yeah, Brightfuture making it to a tight first place, which definitely I think shows that the line that he chose allowed him to have winning chances here. He knew that it might have been in my best interest that the game continues, and the war and also his good impacts yeah, made it that he actually tied with me. And if I maybe had one less impact that drawn that I could easily push into the deck, he actually might win this game here. So I think his bit of a gamble worked out quite well. And yeah, I at the end tie for the first place. And yeah, as said, it's of course, it went unfortunately for Malakesh. He also was the one without air forces. So to be honest, he also had one turn where he could have potentially taken them. So it's an unfortunate outcome for him. But in my opinion, nothing unsportsmanlike happened in this game. And yeah, but Malakesh is welcome to share his perspective as well. And with this game finished, we can now take a look at the standings. Unfortunately, I said the two-player game with Malakesh, he already resigned in that. And there is also a two-player game already played against Carney, which was very one-sided, and it also finished already before this three-player game. And we will now take a look at the standings, but yeah, we can't take a look at the two-player games against Malakesh, and the game against Carney is just not too, maybe too interesting. And after all this stuff happening, I also, yeah, I'm not too motivated to show the two-player games now that basically the group is decided. And maybe if the two-player games against Brightfuture will end up being very interesting, I will show that as a conclusion of this stage. But otherwise, maybe I will show some videos from other tournaments instead. I have to think about it still, but we will take a look at the current standings now. Alright, here we can see some other games that finished. Malakesh resigned in our two-player game. Malakesh won before all of that against Carney, so he did again well in the first one of the two-player games. I also managed to win against Carney. As you can see, that was somewhat one-sided, and yeah, after all of that, yeah, didn't have too much motivation to now cover this game, and we will see how that one against Brightfuture will be going, and I rather will maybe show some games from the Grandmaster Division of the International Championship or something. But we have now the following standings. Malakesh resigned, I won against Carney, so I have those points. And I'm now at 30.5 points, and with that I will be able to move on to the next stage, but I really would have preferred it to, yeah, to if this all wouldn't have ended like this, because yeah, I think that's just not a great ending towards this World Championship group with how that went at the end. But yeah, I'm able to move on. So I will be playing in stage 6. I will did now at the end make it further in the tournament than last year, and of course I'm interested to see what opponents I will be playing against in that stage at the end. And yeah. With that, we are at the end of the video. I say thanks for watching, have a nice time, and see you in the next video.